hello, friends, magical friends from everywhere. Friends. Welcome to today's episode of Today's Harmonics, brought to you by Quantum Play Studios.
Very nice.
I am one of your hosts, Aria, and your other host is Rachel Z.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back.
Welcome back. We have been journeying through the cosmos. We've been journeying through our solar system and getting to know the archetypes and the energies of our planetary brothers and sisters, with a little hint from the Sailor Moon cosmos.
Yes.
So today we are here as Sailor Moon.
Yes.
And Sailor Pluto.
Yes.
And these are actually, Moon and Pluto are the only two planets we have left. So this is the third and final part of our 3-part journey. So if you missed the other two, please catch them. We have replays on Rumble and replays on Spotify.
Yes. Yeah. You can have an audio version on Spotify as well.
Spotify has video too.
Yes.
Yeah.
So both.
It's great.
Either or. Yeah. And the presentation I have in full if you want to join us at the Quantum Play crew.
Yes. Yes. So, today we're actually going to dive into the lens of the cosmos from the eyes of Sailor Moon, the moon, and Sailor Pluto.
Yes.
And then a little bit later, we're going to look at the charts and the star alignments as they are today, which is August the 9th, right?
August 9th.
August 9th.
Wherever you are. And the chart of the everlasting now, because the timeline, we're going to get into that too. Timeline's shifting, the way time feels, and how our perspectives on time and how we can, I guess, align ourselves to the cosmic clock. Right?
Yeah, and that means so many different things for so many different people. So please stay with us until the end of this episode, because that's what we're diving into later on.
Yes.
But for now...
Oh, yes.
I wanted to ask... So I'm very new to the Sailor Moon universe. I read one manga that you gave me.
Yes.
Like, you grew up with this.
I did grow up with... But then, that being said, though, to everyone... let's see here. I don't know about that anime. People on TikTok are asking if I watch certain anime. So I'm going to give you guys some perspective on Sailor Moon as well, in terms of the dub that existed in the 90s, which me and my friends were very, very attached to.
Yeah.
So that did not have Sailor Pluto in it just yet. But this is also at a time where I was introduced to the internet. And that sounds like...
Sorry, so how old is Sailor Moon? Is it early 90s?
It is early 90s. And there was a manga, of course, that existed ahead of that. And in Japan, they had all of the Sailor Moon R. People are trying to...
Oh, wow. We are also live on TikTok.
Yeah, so just so you know. Where was I going with this? But there was Sailor Moon, essentially, what we got in North America was basically season 1 and season 2.
Okay.
Sailor Moon itself has 5 or 6 seasons, which extend the storyline and include the outer planets and all that kind of stuff. That's all to say that Sailor Moon in the manga, which I find that in both, they have the Sailor Scouts embody planetary energies that are very entrenched in classical mythology.
Yeah.
Right? So even the glyphs that they have in the center of their heads match up with our fun little classroom session today, where we're going to look at the glyphs and how they match up with the Sailor Scouts as well. So
yeah, and if you missed that, again, we covered a lot of what the other planets, glyphs, and energies and archetypes were in the 2 previous episodes.
Yes.
So if you missed that, again, the replays are on Rumble and on Spotify.
That's right. So we flew through the solar system. We started out with, we talked about the sun. There's no Sailor sun.
No.
But if you talk about your horoscope, or when people are talking about your astrology, typically you're talking about your sun sign, right? But then from there, we went from Mercury, flew all the way through the planets, skipped the moon.
Yes.
Oops. But and then we are now at Pluto. So Pluto, my friend Aria here, I've always thought that before she even knew anything about Sailor Moon, I thought that she embodied the energies of Sailor Pluto.
Tell me why.
Why is that? Well, I will tell you why. Because Sailor Pluto in the story, essentially, she guards the space-time door, right? So
this is my branch staff.
Yeah, her staff also functions as a key, right? So it's this idea of being a key through time, to traverse through time, because in Sailor Moon there's this idea that in the future her daughter comes back into the past to learn lessons, And so
That's Sailor Mars.
no, Sailor Moon's like so.
Oh,
Sailor
okay.
Pluto basically serves the moon. Let's say like
The Moon Princess.
the moon princess and her family, right? The
Right.
the royal family of the moon, right? And so Sailor Pluto was always Sailor Pluto. Her mythology is that she was chosen to be Sailor Pluto. And so
Right.
she's almost like this ageless but is also like the eldest as well.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that energy.
Okay.
But so she's a guardian to Rini, who is Sailor Moon's daughter. In the future.
Okay,
Yeah.
I see. Okay,
Yeah,
so it's
yeah.
a mother-daughter dynamic.
It's kind of
great.
is, but
But not exactly.
Sailor Moon's relationship with Pluto is not necessarily as strong as the relationship as her daughters with Sailor Pluto.
Right.
Because Sailor Pluto is guarding the sanctity, I guess, of like when people are timeline traveling. Because
Yeah.
she's not from that timeline and she's now in this particular timeline, which is why Sailor Moon, when she meets her daughter, is like, "You're very annoying.
Right.
Like, what the heck?
okay.
Who are you?" Like,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
"I'm your daughter." Like,
Yes.
and then she actually ends up being like a rival for Darien, Mamoru, her Earth Prince, and it's like this this weird thing of like the daughter doesn't know that yet,
Yeah,
so she's like
yeah.
trying to like vie for the attention of
Right,
yeah.
okay.
So it like plays with all those dynamics.
Yeah, yeah,
But-
that is
Yeah,
fairly
but-
complex
yes,
for
but-
a manga.
But I mean, like, as it comes to Sailor Pluto, what essentially what I want to get to, and we'll get into the presentation. You guys on TikTok won't be able to see it.
Yes.
But Pluto itself as a planet. Did you want to go into what you think of Pluto?
Yeah, actually, you know what? I'd love to start with your presentation
Yes.
of Pluto, just because we've done that for every other planet.
Yes, and so that way we can actually.
And for those of you on TikTok, we'll weed out some of the points here. But what you're
tidbits.
missing is Rachel has this lovely presentation slide with
PowerPoint
Hades and Sailor Pluto.
Yes, I do. Yes,
Together.
yes. You know what though? They made. I keep on telling you. I've told you guys this on TikTok too to go watch the show The Magicians. I've told
Oh,
you
yeah,
this.
I know. It's
So-
not anywhere I
I
can watch, but
know.
okay.
Like, I need to get Kevin to like maybe we can do a little streaming of it because
Yes,
we
a live
pirate
stream.
everything, and so you know, yeah. But in it, they have Hades and Persephone as characters.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And
okay.
Persephone is like the queen of the underworld,
She
and
is,
so I
yeah.
think of Persephone as a Plutonic type of goddess.
100%.
Right. So this
Yeah.
idea of a goddess of the underworld, also very attuned to things like sex and stuff. So, but I'll get into that. Actually, I'll read the slide out. So Pluto, Hades, god of the underworld and ruler of Scorpio. And remember, new ruler of Scorpio. Oh, thanks for the
Yes.
gift.
Oh
Thank
my
you.
gosh.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
He represents death, the underworld, obsession, psychology, and even sex itself. Transformation is an important theme when it comes to Pluto, and Pluto rules the subconscious forces and the idea of the darkness before the rebirth, the great revealer.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's what I have for Pluto. Anything to add?
Oh my God, so much. So I find this, this word transformation, like we often use it in spirituality, consciousness, in like the Sailor Scouts all transform.
Oh yeah,
right,
that
into
you
something
pull
else.
your heart crystal and you transform.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the way I understand Pluto is kind of like it's the portal to our power. That's how I understand. And like Pluto's at a very interesting moment because I think if you, when I was plotting this earlier today, Pluto is at 0 degrees of Aquarius right now. I think it's currently in retrograde, right?
Is it retrograding?
It'll
like
retrograde back
dancing.
into Capricorn,
Okay.
and then it'll like shift gears into Aquarius. But right now it's at 0 degrees.
Okay.
And when any planet is at 0 degrees, it's like net new. Like this is now Pluto's in a sign for like 20 years or something. So like a whole generation of people was born, and they were born in Pluto and Capricorn, and now it's shifted into
Yeah.
Aquarius. And
It's a big deal.
It's a big deal. And we may or may not feel this personally in our lives just because it's the last planet of the solar system. It's super far away. It's one of these transpersonal planets, right?
Transpersonal planets, yes.
And so the way I see it is the transformation is it's almost like our entire foundation gets shifted. Like if you I mean, like think about your move from like your teens to your 20s, your 20s to your 30s, right? Our sense of power is very different as teenagers than it is when we're in our 20s and starting our careers.
That's so true.
Different when we're in our 30s.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't align perfectly with Pluto because it's a 20-year period, but what gets transformed and what gets reset is that portal that we go through. It's almost like seeing your 30s as the initiation from your 20s to your 40s. Or your 40s as the initiation, right? Because
that's a great way to put it.
You talked about time a lot, right?
Yeah.
And because Sailor Pluto and Pluto itself, so Pluto is like the last planet before the rest of the galaxy,
the rest of space.
So it does hold us together. It's right. It's like the edge of our solar system, like opposite from the sun.
Yeah.
And its job is to kind of contain us in a powerful enough structure for us here to go through whatever it is we're going through. And then when we're ready, we can now transform, transition, reclaim more aspects. So to me, Pluto unto itself is portal energy. Which is also Persephone, because she is not in the underworld permanently, right? She's 6 months up, 6 months down. She's the daughter of Demeter in Greek myth.
We will maybe in the future have
co-hosts, we're spicy enough for now. So with Persephone and Hades, I think that dance is interesting because everything I've said, portal and time, it doesn't sound sexy. But Hades...
I think portals sound sexy.
I mean, okay, maybe to us
I don't know, you guys drop in the chat if you think...
Yeah, are portals sexy?
Yes or no?
But I think where the portal stuff comes in is because... after Pluto is more unknown, it's more void. And it's that place where you actually learn to make love to the void, which is, to me, that intimacy and power and sexuality. So to make love to the unknowability in your life and to hold that and to enjoy that, that's like staff of Sailor Pluto to me.
I love that.
Right?
Yeah. And you know what? Also with Sailor Pluto, you can think of this idea of Pluto is a masculine planet.
Yeah.
Right? Versus the moon. And, thanks for all the roses. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay, so like Pluto is a masculine planet. Having that embodied and feminine energy, what does that look like? Right?
And it's a masculine planet at the edge of unknown, right? So, and it's this beautiful thing, like in tantric studies or even in like alchemical studies of which I'm a student, nothing lives in isolation. So the masculine that is enwombed in the feminine, the masculine that is at the edge of unknowability and can stand in that, that is Pluto, like or Hades, the Lord of the underworld. And the underworld is a dimension unto itself, right? And so you have all of this, and we have like sexual power and all of this like awesome, lovely stuff that if it's of interest, you should absolutely explore it, study it with great reverence, because...
and respect.
Yes. And I'll say this, having not done that, I have wrecked a lot of my life and other people's hearts, right? And mine too.
Yeah.
Because when we're dealing with powers that are unknown, unknowable, unseen, in the darkness, that is not a place where the average human happily walks along in comfort, right? Like there is a reason there are initiatory steps.
Yes.
So we may think I have that, I know that, but to know it in the blood and the sinew of you, and I think that's also the transformation of Pluto. It is not a mental planet.
No,
it is.
It's a deep, visceral.
Yeah, it's very visceral.
It's the place where like boundaries completely like dissolve and you're just
right. If you look at what Pluto rules, I think it rules like the colon, the rectum, the root of us. So like our sexual organs, our reproductive organs, and then our elimination organs. So, and obviously those are associated with sex, certainly. And so the great revealer comes from the revelation of coming to the core of our power and existing from there.
Ooh.
And that's the spark.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
So that is my Pluto.
Just like
without ever having seen Sailor Pluto in action.
Well, you know what though? It's just it's when we talked about like Sailor Moon in terms of talking about these planetary energies, I look at it like how they have relationships with each other.
Yeah.
As way of there's a saying that you are every sign in the zodiac, right?
And every planet, and
you're every planet. You are
archetype,
everything. Yeah. You are the all. You are the infinite. You are just playing a perspective right now.
Exactly.
So I think when in your own chart, where you have relationships, like aspects, like I have a very strong opposition between a very tight opposition between my sun and Pluto, because I'm a Taurus.
Right.
And Pluto's in Scorpio, right?
Yeah.
So I have a very, I've had to deal with a lot with Pluto. But if you learn those lessons, if you can rise to the challenge of what it means to go through, destroying yourself completely and then coming out of the ashes and really phoenixing out of it, and also the idea that, I don't know why I relate Scorpio to also being fiery, even though it's like
it's a water sign.
Yeah,
because it is fiery.
Yeah, so I think almost like molten lava.
It's almost like there's a volcano under a lake, and that boiling lake is Scorpio.
That's a great way to put it.
How
That's
I
a great
see
way
it.
to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't know, for Scorpio, for some reason, even though it's water, it's always I'm like.
Well, it's the first Scorpio energy is the first descent into the underworld in the wheel of the zodiac, right? It's not actually the 12th house; it's the 8th, which is Scorpio.
Yeah.
So I think Pluto is an interesting ruler for a sign that isn't at the end. It's not Pisces, because without having gone through like a death tunnel in house 8 of the zodiac, which is Scorpio.
Yeah.
Actually, only if you've gone through it can you actually go into Sagittarius. Because Scorpio is like your underground, underwater roots, and Sagittarius is like your archer pointing upwards.
Coming out into
right?
Yeah,
so if you, like a tree, your branches are only going to be as big as your roots.
True that. Yeah.
Right?
Your foundation, where you're coming from. Yeah.
Because as above, so below. So that, I think, is the importance of even the placement of Scorpio in the chart and Pluto ruling Scorpio.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay, so that's Pluto.
That's Pluto.
In a nutshell.
Oh, and I have a friend here who wants to say a little time. Oh, hi, Luna.
Hi, Luna. Oh my gosh, what are you saying? I'm the Moon Princess? Oh my gosh. Okay, so we're going to do Sailor Moon. Because it's funny, in my presentation, I'm just going to flip this quickly just for a visual.
Yeah, I should say I read one Sailor Moon manga, and I'm reading this, and I remembered being like, oh yeah, like there's little stickers of Sailor Moon all over your apartment. And I'm reading it, and I'm like, oh my god, Rachel would say this. Oh my god, Rachel would totally do this. Her mannerisms are so, oh my god, it was hilarious. I can only imagine when you were younger, it would have been way more.
So it's funny because my youth growing up in the prairies, me and my girlfriends were obsessed with Sailor Moon. My best friend Laura at the time, we've actually recently reconnected because she was like in my Dragon Warriors book, right? So she was actually my Sailor Moon. I was playing Sailor Mars.
That is so weird,
right?
To me.
Because hair was so important to me.
Yeah,
and
I see
having the hair match the character was like a big deal. So I was like, I wasn't blonde, so I'm like, why am I going to be Sailor Moon? I have long black hair, so I should clearly be Sailor Mars.
That is weird. I am not wearing a green wig.
We will get you that. We'll revisit this again. Because these characters in Promethea, the comic book, I've read you guys this on TikTok before, Promethea, and there's a saying in there that I really love where it's like, here, how things look are not as important as what they mean. So that's the idea of transferring the energy of what we mean by the character instead of being true to, let's say, a certain stylistic way that it's been drawn or been interpreted.
Because that was also someone's interpretation at a particular point in time.
Exactly. Yes, and of course the creator of Sailor Moon, that is the canon, that is the blueprint, the original. But the idea of remixing on it and still giving homage and credit to the original source material, that's the whole idea. And Sailor Moon, when I was growing up, when watching the dub, the voices of those characters, I know some people hate on it too on YouTube when I look at it, but I'm like, those are the voices to me. And Luna in the dub sounds like a grandma.
Oh.
No, if you listen to, you guys know, if you guys watch that 90s dub, you know, she kind of like, oh, Serena, I am your cat. I'm here to tell, it's like, she's got this almost hoity-toity, British kind of I don't know, it's that's just, so when there was a movie of Sailor Moon S where Luna becomes a human, which is a beautiful human, because she falls in love with a human. So she has this, anyways, that's a good movie, we should watch it. But in it, like, I know it was Japanese, but I was like, oh my gosh, I always pictured Luna as being like an older lady in her human form.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So I was just like, what is going on? But then I get it. Like,
Right.
it's not, but.
Okay, so why are you, what are the energy, so let's look at the moon.
Let's look at the moon itself in the chart.
And then, like, why are you so drawn to it through the moon archetype? That would be fun.
A couple of things with the moon. Like, I was born under a crescent moon.
Oh.
A waxing crescent moon, which is what I wear. Yeah, and it was in Gemini, and you're a Gemini. Okay. So I vibe. I find that I do vibe a lot with Geminis. And so your moon sign in your chart represents your emotions, your inner self, your subconscious. It's part of your astro stack to me. I think your moon sign is incredibly important the makeup of who you are as you're traversing through the game of life. So your moon, it's interesting though, because in looking at Sailor Moon and my crescent moon, I've also realized how much I love I can almost stay stuck in the past. You know what I mean? Like,
do you see that as a waxing? So I'm a waxing crescent, 2-day waxing crescent. So do you think that's a shape of the moon the day you were born?
No,
or
I think
placement.
Were you born after a solar eclipse?
I was born after a solar eclipse.
So wouldn't that be?
I was born.
Oh wait,
yeah.
That would
New
be a
moon.
crescent moon.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think there's like this idea of almost like silver and like looking back a bit, right? So because even in the beginning of Sailor Moon, like, I love Queen Serenity. Like, she's there's a scene where like the reason why they all even like reincarnate on Earth is because she, like, with her last magic that she has left, she tells Luna and Artemis that, like, I'm gonna give them a chance to live a happy life on Earth. And if evil comes back again, they'll remember who they are.
Okay.
And maybe we can meet again.
But if it doesn't, then they can just live their lives.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah. So, like, they only wake up because they're needed and they activate, right? And so it's this idea of, like, the moon is there to, like, remember who you are, but, like, you do have to take that forward, right? There's the other side.
Because it's still unconscious.
Yeah.
Like, it's our emotional
to bring
depths.
that forward, right? So all this stuff sleeps within you with the moon that not needs to be, but maybe woken up based on.
If activated. So the oh, right, I see what you mean. Right, because if the evil queen never came, then they would just be living their lives.
Yeah, they would, and they would just never know, right? And so typically like at the end of season 1, even after they defeat the evil queen, they all forget all of their events and they just go back to their regular lives.
Right.
Yeah, and it's just like, it never happened, but did it?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's a cool question, right? Like, where even Crisis on Infinite Earths talked about that, where, you know, when the Earths are gone, and it's like they never existed at all, but you still have the memory of that
in
world.
your imprint somewhere.
Yeah. So, like, does that mean it never existed, or so that
or it's like and it's like if you wake up from a dream that was so present for you, and then you're like, wait, did that happen in reality? Or right? And this is again like we were talking about,
this is
Pluto,
where the moon
timelines.
Yes, and that's the great connection.
So want to talk a bit about the moon and Pluto in astrology?
Yes,
because I think you have more of the technicals around this than I do.
Oh, really?
I think so.
No way. No way I don't. Oh my gosh, am I blurry? Oh my gosh, hold on. I'm gonna just switch to this.
Hi guys. From a different angle.
Oh my gosh.
We're just switching perspectives.
We're switching perspectives, and on our other camera, I'm like, are we really blurry?
We are crystal clear on TikTok,
you guys,
though.
it's okay. So
you guys have been amazing. Thank you for all your hearts and your flowers and your level of engagement. Look at that. That is. I can't see names, but oh my God, you guys are incredible.
Thank you, and we will be doing this. Yeah, I'll be having this live every Friday. I'll do it on TikTok Friday as well. Yeah. Yes. So, but we're on Rumble as well. If you want to see the actual like screen share, you can.
Yeah,
as well.
For sure.
But okay, so astrology itself. So, do you want to bring out the chart first, or like as a way to kind of show where Pluto and the moon are
sure.
now?
Actually, no. Before we do that, I had something else. So, I think this is just because it was important to both of us. So, yesterday.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh, of course.
Right? Okay.
How could I forget?
Yesterday, friends, was August the 8th, 2024. So, if you add that, like, 2024, it's like 888.
888.
So, maybe you care, maybe you don't. We obviously
care. I
extremely care.
You care,
so
I care.
I care. You know what? For those of you who don't care, honestly,
it's okay.
It's fun. It's fine. Like, whatever, don't worry about it. What it actually is, so this energy is called the Lion's Gate. Lion because it always occurs in the zodiac sign of Leo because we are in Leo season. So historically, almost every ancient powerhouse culture, I mean, maybe every culture in the world used this as sort of this powerhouse energy. The Lion's Gate occurs when the dog star Sirius makes a perfect triangle between the Earth and the Sun. So it's like this 3-point awesome spatial geometry. And it was studied and noticed very deeply by ancient Egyptians, and a lot of their architectures from their temples in other parts, I think Malta as well, you were saying?
Malta's got venerates Sirius in some of their temples, like through the little keyhole they have.
Yes.
It basically tracks Sirius.
Yeah.
So
there's like I know in New Delhi there's this park called Jantar Mantar, which is an astrological park made in like the 1200s, and it has all these awesome, and like you can walk underground into this like astrological device that is the size of
that's probably
like,
a portal.
Yeah,
that has yet
this
to be
place is
activated.
insane. Anyway, so they have all these like cool devices that point and sort of explain to you where the planets are and where Sirius is. So this is like extremely important.
Yeah.
I think in Egypt, just after this Lion's Gate portal is when the Nile would flood, which was their death and regeneration, because the flooding of the Nile would reclaim the soil, and then they'd have a new harvest growth. So there were a lot of cultures that celebrated this.
I love that.
In
my hair just
astrology,
fell apart,
no,
it's okay.
It looks great.
Thank you. My hair is too big in Lion's Gate. That's what
she has
my
lion-like hair.
Lion's
Look at
Gate
that.
hair. That's what I had basically. So now it's free.
So Lionsgate today is considered by numerologists and astrologers alike as a heightened time of manifestation.
Yes.
Not the manifestation of your thoughts, because Leo is ruled by the heart. So it is the manifestation of whatever's in your heart. If you have greed or denial or exhaustion in your heart, that's what you're going to get this month. If you have change,
where focus
bewilderment,
goes, energy flows.
Oh my God, that is 10 times more true
Yes.
in Leo season anyway,
Yeah.
and doubly so with the Lionsgate. So that is the energy that we are currently in for the next few days.
Wow.
The Lionsgate always ends in this beautiful meteor shower called the Perseids, which is like, to me, like the cosmic
like
kind
fireworks.
of, yeah,
kind of
fireworks,
thing.
a little
Yay,
confetti.
You made it.
You made it through the
portal.
portal. To me, Lionsgate is a whole bunch of other things, but as simply as I can say it, it will create what is already in your heart,
Okay. Yeah.
right? So if that scares you, you have some work to do. If that excites you, party on. So what does Lionsgate mean to you?
Oh my gosh. So it's funny because in Lionsgate, my book, this is actually when we open a portal to the year 2222.
I did not realize that.
It's in the book.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
I've read this like
So
twice.
but we're
totally missed it.
But it's not actually explicitly called out in the book I gave
You should
you.
call it out.
Yeah, but that's why I felt like, so Lionsgate to me, the 888 is significant to me. It, numerologically wise, it does represent the sun. And
Right, of course,
Yeah,
because
and
Leo.
also the infinity symbol, the Ouroboros, right? It's on its side, and so this idea of connecting to yourself. So the idea of being completely aligned, right? So like that idea of like when your heart and your chakras are all like firing on all same cylinders, and you create this like figure 8 within yourself. That's how I kind of picture that as like the 888 of Lionsgate. So when you have that all ready to go, you can use that time to like fully actually manifest and call out to the universe what your intention is and what it is that you want.
Oof.
Right?
So, how is that for Sailor Pluto? Like as the moon's, for Sailor Moon as the moon princess.
Well,
Like how do you see the sun and the Lionsgate?
oh yeah. So it's kind of like this idea, like why is there no Sailor Sun? It's because the sun, even in astrology, is the battery and it's the power that empowers all the other signs, right? So when the moon
Illuminates. Yeah, of course.
So when the
Okay.
moon is empowered by like the solar power, right? It's about using that to, from a memory, from an emotional standpoint, you can then harness that to make those emotions and those like very like untangible subconscious things become real.
if you know who you were, you know who you are
Yeah,
now.
yeah. So like you
Wow.
being like, let's say it's Sailor Moon. Let's say I didn't know. Like even Sailor Moon, when she wakes up to being Sailor Moon,
Yes.
doesn't know she's the Moon Princess.
Oh.
She doesn't. She just knows she's the guardian of the Moon Princess. She doesn't know
Oh.
those two people are the same.
So she doesn't know that she's there to protect herself.
Yeah.
That is crazy.
Yeah, and then she finds out at the end that she's like, oh, I am the Moon Princess, and I'm Sailor Moon, because that's the way the mantle works. But her mom
Right.
never told her that to protect her, right? So it's just,
Wow.
yeah. And her friends were like, we're here to protect the Moon Princess with our Captain Sailor Moon,
Yeah.
but like, really, it's me. Like,
Yeah.
it's-
I mean, there's something really refreshing about, like, you and your squad. You know, we're protecting you. We have each other's backs, and like, you are worthy of your own protection, rather than outsourcing it to some, like, you know, knight in shining armor, which is a very different fantasy storyline
Yeah,
that
that's true.
we're more commonly fed that,
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
than this one.
And I think also
Wow.
Sailor Moon and her hubby, Tuxedo Mask, my hubby, Kevin. You
He
guys
is-
know,
he
yeah.
is Tuxedo
my
Mask.
Tuxedo Mask.
Yeah.
But like they have in the beginning, they have this like banter with each other.
Okay.
And like he like teases her a lot. And like there was this one scene in Sailor Moon where he like comes in to like kind of help, but he doesn't really help with the fight. And then he's like, well, my work here is done. And she's like, but you, didn't do anything.
Man.
I'm like, what the heck? But also, like he doesn't know that
Yeah, yeah.
she's Sailor Moon or the Moon Princess either, right? So in the
Right.
final accumulation scene, where like she transforms in front of him because she has to, he's like, holy crap,
Yeah.
it's you. And
Wow.
yeah, it's just this whole
Chills.
thing. Yeah, I got chills too, because that's what it's like, and that's why I love Sailor Moon so much, because it's about like what I tell you guys when I read you guys stories is that different stories have resonance for you, right? Sailor Moon may not mean anything to you, whatever. It's fine, and that's okay. You can leave that on the table.
Yeah. But you see the moon.
But you do see the moon
often.
every day. Yes, and there's also the mythology that Sailor Moon is based on is also in other works of art, in other like for example, like just the myths of Greek. Right, if you think of like
Any
the
myth.
moon, any myth,
Any
any
myth,
story,
any story.
anything like
Yeah.
that. So like the idea of the subconscious self, the self that we hide, the self that like has inner talk, the inner dialogue with ourselves. That,
Yeah, and let's not forget the moon controls tides and oceans, right, on the planet, and beings that are watery,
Water, yes.
like 70% water. The relationship here is the moon also is igniting a push and a pull of our emotions, and most of us who walk the planet are ruled by our emotions. We just are.
We are.
And if we're like high spiritual masters, then maybe we're not for that moment, but for the most part,
Yeah,
we
no,
are,
we
right?
are, yeah.
And so to have some sense of learning how to surf them, I think requires an understanding of the moon placement in your chart, and yeah, like just some self-reflection and study. on that
Totally,
account.
yeah. So your moon sign also like where your moon plays with other planets as
Ooh,
well,
yeah,
right?
it's fun.
yeah, because like also if you were to take the moon,
With Mars, for example,
Yeah.
very different dynamic than the moon and Venus that
Yes.
are like friends and
best
hang out.
besties,
And,
yeah. So, but like knowing that in your own chart, you
Exactly.
can also deal with like your inner selves when it comes to approaching different things as well, and
Yeah.
like and know like maybe why you feel a certain way, and you're not
Yeah.
crazy.
You're
It's
not-
just the moon.
And not to say that in like a don't take any
No,
ownership or
no.
responsibility for your actions, because I feel like that's a common theme in
Oh
astrology.
sure, yeah.
To like,
I'm this sign, so
Yeah.
like I just act like that.
yeah, and sort of to like get away with bad behavior, but like the point of it is to hold compassion for yourself and others.
Yeah,
If you're only
totally.
compassionate with yourself and you think everyone else sucks because of their sign, that's probably like a weird situation, which is actually how, like for me, from like a Plutonian perspective, the Lionsgate's very different because it's less personal. And it's more around the gate not being a static, like, here is a gate and now I've walked through, because like the gate unto itself is a time space warp portal, and you and I were talking about how we're
yes.
kind of bumping into things and what time and what day it is.
Like, where am I?
Where-
in time
yeah.
space.
Like I'll be doing something and I'm like, is today Wednesday? Right, because we're both like moving through this portal like everyone else. And again, it might it doesn't mean it will manifest for you in a way that makes you feel clumsy, but whatever is resetting, just in our hearts, in our bones. You might feel it in certain organs. You might feel it in certain relationships.
Yeah.
Like
For sure.
like right, you might feel it at work. You might feel it with money, because like money is like such an instrument of power in our lives.
Definitely.
Like economy, all of this stuff. So yeah, like that is where I would say, the Lionsgate from the perspective of Pluto is. It's like trying to call us home through this portal.
I love that. Yeah.
With that,
Yeah.
so
With
Rachel,
that, yes. I have my little like.
okay, this is an amazing little implement here, a tool of
like,
ours here.
Yes,
What is it?
it's like astro education.
So I'll move it closer for you Remble folks. So Rachel, want to explain what we're looking at here?
Oh my gosh. So this is basically all of the planets as they exist in the chart of the everlasting now. Let me see if I can see some comments here.
Yeah, look at that.
Hold on a second.
Yeah, so I actually just plotted the planets to where they are, so you can see, oops, that moved. So you can currently see that, what is this? Wait.
This is Mars.
Oh, right, so this is Mars, and I put them upside down. This is Mars and Jupiter in the sign of Gemini, because that's the Gemini glyph.
Yeah. Yes.
So it's just this is from the perspective of Earth, right in the center.
Yes.
This is what all the planets look like if you could see them.
Surrounded, yes. Yeah. Surrounding, yes. And so you can kind of see, I don't know if, let's see. So is the moon in Libra?
The moon is in Libra tonight.
Oh, wow. Yeah, okay, yes. So the moon, that's what we want to look at first of all, because we were just talking about the moon. So the moon in Libra, to me, represents this, because Libra is ruled by Venus. So
yes,
there's this idea of interplay of, I'm going to say, like, emotionally, you're going to be gravitated to things of, like, beauty in your own life. And places where you can find, like, I think in your own mental state,
because Libra is an air sign,
right?
Yeah.
So where like your partnerships and relationships, look emotionally to those types of like things in your life. So that's.
So one of the things I like to look at in addition to the moon is Black Moon Lilith.
Oh yes.
Which is, it's not it's not anything. It's the furthest orbit of the moon in relationship to the Earth. So it's utilized in astrology, but there's no mass there. There's no actual asteroid. And I mention this because Black Moon Lilith is currently also in Libra, hanging out by the moon. And
that's not always the case, though.
It's not always the case. No, it moves every 9 or 10 months.
Yeah. Okay.
Because it's a point in the orbit.
It's a mathematical point, right?
Exactly. It's a mathematical point. But Black Moon Lilith, along with the moon in Libra, to me is interesting. It's almost like digging. So Lilith is I don't know how you see it. To me, Lilith is like
Lilith is right on my ascendant too.
Oh shit! Yeah. It's near my midheaven. So like we're like anyway. So Lilith to me is everything that we shun, everything that we deny, that we like to like put in a box, hide in our basement, and close and lock the door. So it is often the shunned aspects of our personal selves, and depending on family dynamic, religious, and however you grew up, there might be a bigger piece of that. In Libra, there's a huge. And I feel this is a bit contrary for Lilith, because Lilith isn't like the aspect that plays happily and nicely and does everything she's told. She's not.
She does not do what she's told.
She does not do what she's told. But because of the strong Libra energies, there's a sense of reclaiming balance and harmony to create a world that includes everything we've shunned.
Well done. I like that.
Right?
I like that.
Right.
I mean, Black Moon Lilith. Oh, hey Pikachu. Welcome. I'm Sailor Moon. It'll be cool to have a little Pikachu like crossover. With Luna,
Pikachu,
right?
with
Luna and Pikachu can play. Where was I going
Oh my gosh,
with this?
thank you for a gift. You guys are so awesome. I love it.
Where was I going with Black Moon Lilith exists as a character in Sailor Moon.
No.
Yes.
What? Is
she
Black
Lady.
Good or bad?
No, she's bad. She's bad.
No, I hate when they make her bad.
I know. I will maybe.
This is a bit of my a peeve of mine. There's all of these mythological tales.
She does get
blah,
a
blah,
bad
blah,
rap.
bad reputation,
Yeah.
and it's this. I think it's a convenient way of being like, oh, she doesn't she's not part of our narrative. She doesn't listen to our things, so she's just gonna be evil. Which is kind of an interesting archetype here.
Her name's Black Lady in
Black Lady Lilith.
Black Lady. And in Sailor Moon, she is no, not.
Oh, wow. Anyway, yeah, our Google searches are giving us crazy things. But the one other thing I'll say while, Rachel, you're searching up Lilith is it's this interesting notion about, you know, what would it be like if there was a world created where we actually embrace the stuff that is of the shadows, of the dark, of the unknown. And that's kind of...
That's Black.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
No, that's cool.
So she's Sailor Moon's daughter, grown up,
Oh.
and turned evil.
Oh, dear.
Yeah.
I mean, she looks adorable.
I love her look, though. She's hot.
Yeah, she's very hot.
And then she goes after Darien, and it's just like this whole thing of...
Dang.
Yeah, like the rival for Sailor, like, against her mother, right? So I mean, it's the whole situation with that where I agree with you. She gets a bad, like, the whole idea of, like, the dark feminine always being evil. It's not the same thing. I was doing, actually, my little talk on Wetiko.
Yeah.
And one of the papers, written by a Rachel as well, was actually saying that we shouldn't conflate Wetiko, which is like a mind virus of selfishness, with the shadow. Wetiko can hide in the shadow, but it is not your shadow, okay? Yeah. Because your shadow is not evil.
Right.
That's...
Yeah,
and I think that's what
I
people, when they talk about shadow work, or you're, like, working with, like, the dark side of, like, human nature, let's say, like, yes, there's all this, like, the stuff that exists there, like, rage and anger and, like, shame and, like, all this dark stuff that you don't want to look at. Yeah. That's where Wetiko will hide, where you don't want to look at it. So that's why it's important to...
But hide, but also poke at you.
Yeah, too,
because it is meant to be reclaimed.
Yeah,
right?
Yes, yeah. So to look at the shadow and to realize where in yourself you can incorporate or bring light to certain places that require it, you know.
I went to university in Guelph, Canada, and they have a very strong social justice program out of the department. And I remember... I was a terrible student. I would like not go to my classes and went to literally all my friends' classes. So a bunch of them were in social justice. And there is a point to the story. One of the things, there was this guest speaker. I happened to crash this class, and she was speaking about the prison and reformation systems and how prison systems for women actually have to be different because for the average woman to like murder someone, like... generally they have found, and again, there's obviously crazy people and exceptions, but for the most part, the people who find their way into the prison system, especially in certain groups and classes, the tragedy is that they are often the receivers of abuse for a very long time, and then one day they snap because they can't take anymore. This is very different than like the impulsive crime of passion, right? So even how we reform, to me, I think like prison energies, mind prison is more the 12th house, but I think there's an interesting relationship between the stuff that we like to hide away in our personal life and in our societies. It's like, oh, we have homeless people, let's hide them here. Oh, we have, I don't know, troubled kids, let's hide them over here. Let's put them in a box, in an institution, forget about them. I don't want to look at them, right? And so... I don't
want to see it,
I don't want to see it. And so the Lilith, for all of us, and for each of us personally, is the part that's like... kind of like a child throwing a tantrum, like, look at me because there is something unloved here. You have judged me as not good enough, as bad, and that is the Lilith and Moon energies. And I think it's not often, I mean, it's not
that's
super
actually
rare, but
in Sailor Moon, though, how she comes back. Because it doesn't, like, it's not like she stays evil forever. She turns back to, like, Sailor Moon's daughter, like, she becomes good again. And how does that happen? Is because she's become evil because she feels that no one loves her.
We need love, man.
And
every
so
person
once
here.
she realizes that, we love you even with your shadow, your darkness, even though you've done all these horrible things, we do love you because of who you are. And
it is, right? And like, I mean, I think because we see the moon so often, there's always a side to the moon that we don't see.
Yes.
Right?
The
dark side of the moon. We only ever see one side. Yeah. That's true for the other planets, but they're way too far away for us to be able to tell. Yeah. But
we can see the moon, and we're only seeing one face of it.
Exactly. Yeah. And so all the, through history, all the love songs and the poetry written about the moon, not that they directly do it, but if you say, oh, the moon is beautiful, I love it, you have to love it's the part of it you can't see. And that is true for our relationships as well, like all our interpersonal ones, which is,
true.
again, Libra energy.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah.
Good, nice. Bringing it back
Right?
to the chart
Bringing
of
it
the
back
now.
to our little tool of education.
I love it. Okay.
What else do you want to focus on?
Let's do where Pluto is and then see if there's any kind of relationship. So is Pluto...
So Pluto's at 29 degrees. No, Pluto's at 0 degrees Aquarius. Bloop.
Is it doing anything fun with anyone else?
Well, it's retrograding right now. It's opposite... Well, it's opposite Leo, right? Because Aquarius? Not exactly. The sun already
Not
passed
quite,
it.
yeah. But like there's still kind of like remnants of that because Leo and Aquarius are opposite signs.
They are.
Yeah.
But I actually like this dynamic, this little bitty here, which is...
Mars?
Wait, did this move?
You might have shifted a bit.
Sorry,
yeah.
I shifted it. My bad. This is Mars and Jupiter in Gemini, and then...
Saturn.
Deb. Sorry, I'm seeing this upside down. My bad. Why don't you just read it?
So, okay, Saturn and Mars are in Gemini.
Yes.
So that's a little bit of like a interplay there with like Gemini, which you guys know like deals with like communication. And so even with relationship with
Expression.
Sailor Moon, right? The idea of emotions and mental processes.
Yeah.
Very connected, right? So having Mars and Saturn both there's a lot of, I think, energy around like communication.
My Mars and Saturn are conjunct in my chart.
Oh.
So it's
You probably
they're not
feel-
in Gemini.
yeah. But you are a Gemini.
I am a
So
yeah, but they are not. They are in Scorpio for me actually. But they are
yeah.
conjunct. But it so
Yeah.
it's yeah, my entire world of expression and authentic expression, because again, Leo is also how your creativity powers how you show up in the world, right? Like, but Gemini is expression. So this is very ignited for me personally.
I love that.
Yeah. What about, so this is Virgo. So this, oh my God, I have these upside down. This is Mercury.
Yeah,
and
Mercury and
Venus
Venus,
is in
yes.
Virgo right now.
Yes.
So as a Venusian sign yourself, thoughts?
Oh yes. So, well, Virgo is a very feminine sign, and Supergirl, you guys know, like she's a Virgo.
She is.
She's September 22nd. She's also the opposite sign. Virgo opposes Pisces, right? So it's like this idea of the practical side of life, as opposed to it being this more like fantastical, boundary, dreamy thing. So it brings a lot of this groundedness, but not in like a fixed way because Virgo's mutable, right? So this idea of, I think, Mercury and Venus there's going to be an ease, especially with like this stuff happening in Gemini, I think, with being able to communicate things that come from your heart.
Mm-hmm. Also, I totally messed this up. It's supposed to be Jupiter and Gemini.
Oh, okay.
Right?
That's
why it was throwing me. I'm like, this is not like.
That's not right.
Yeah, I'm having intensity, but for different reasons. Wow, I messed that up. My apologies.
No worries. That's okay. That's live TV. We can do that in the edit. Like, it never happened.
Yes.
Never happened. Okay, but this is intense too, though.
Yeah. I mean, that's like reality and fantasy in the same area.
So having this at the same time that Lionsgate's happening is kind of like this idea of, I was reading.
Sorry, this is Saturn?
Oh, Saturn and Neptune. And Neptune is like in the Omega degree zodiac of everything, right?
It
the
really
29th
is.
degree of Pisces, like the end of all things, the beginning of all things.
Yeah.
This whole idea of really, I don't know, I have this concept of like just how dreamlike our real world is.
Yep.
You know, how much more malleable it really is. And looking at what we thought were very structured, held belief systems, it's
This
like
is
kind
real.
of falling.
This is
Yeah,
reality,
it's
yeah.
not. It's not. Like, what are taxes? What's a license? What's a country? What are all these things? And just going to the root, like, what is it, the intrinsic value of what things are? And in your dreams too, they do have value.
Yeah, actually, a
So,
friend of mine
yeah.
who's always thought things like lucid dreaming was like complete rubbish. She sent me this voice note today, and she's like, so I tried lucid dreaming, and in the dream, I did a test to see, am I dreaming or am I real? And then the test succeeded, and I'm like, I am dreaming in the dream. And then that ignited her to wake up. And then she was like, oh, I was actually dreaming.
Yeah.
So it's a very like Inception movie.
Batgirl, I read a Batgirl comic to you guys,
Right.
which is really cool, where she was in a dream world, and to contact the real world, she had to meditate in the dream world.
Right.
And, like, to focus, like, you have to dream in the dream to to dream about the
girl knows
real.
how to meditate. Really, Barbara Gordon?
Yes, yes, it's a
All
good
right.
one. Yeah, and she has to do like it's. I didn't expect that comic book to be as trippy as it was. Either,
Yeah,
when we read
that
it, it was
sounds
kind of
it.
crazy. But in the end, it's just about this whole idea of in the dream. If you dream, are you dreaming of a reality?
Right. Actually, another way, I just saw Deadpool Wolverine, and like another way of seeing it is like the comics that know that they're comics. Right? You're like,
Lucidity
yeah.
in the dream, right? Oh yes, and I forgot about the comment that she said in there. She was like, she realized she was in the dream, so she was able to lift up these guys really easily and like carry them to where they need to go. And she's like, is this what Supergirl feels like?
Yeah.
Being lucid in the dream? And I'm like, that is how
insane.
Supergirl feels like.
Right.
Being lucid in the dream. So that's how you activate your powers. Once you realize being lucid in this shared dream will mean that you wake.
Right,
like,
because the entire dynamics of physics, space, and time are different in dream worlds than they are where we are currently playing.
Consensus reality.
Yeah, exact. Consensus reality is a good way of putting it. All right. I think, was there anything else you wanted to talk about with regards to the current energies? So to me, the Lionsgate. I mean,
To
give or
wrap up,
take.
let's wrap up the astro, like our final thoughts
the final
on
thoughts.
like I guess the cosmic
So
time, like the cosmic clock, right?
So the one thing, like, if you are not familiar with astrology, is like the moon moves like every couple of
hours,
days.
yeah.
Like it moves frequently,
It moves
right?
a
So
lot,
it's
yeah.
speed just because it goes around the Earth like in 28 days, right? Like that's the entire. So in 28 days from today, it's gonna kind of be back in the same similar-ish spot. All the other planets move at varying degrees and paces. Pluto being the slowest and Mercury being the fastest. And so, in a few days, some of these will kind of look the same, but the moon will move, and then all of the, like the constellations and stuff, which is where we get the zodiac from, they shift, and all of the angles that different planets make to Earth.
Which is why when you're born, you have like the most, that's just
Specific,
you.
yeah.
That's like your unique blueprint of the stars,
yeah.
for
And
sure.
we say unique, but like in that moment, like how many ever tens of thousands of other people are born, but only tens of thousands of other people have that. And again, like timing, geography, culture, all of that makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
But this is why, like, those of us who really love astrology and birth charts, and both of us offer astrology chart readings and support, like,
To
in
navigate,
very different ways. Yeah, exactly. So if you are new or if you think it's weird, I see it as a tool of compassion.
I love that.
Yeah,
Yeah. I think, compassion, understanding, empathy, it like helps you just like realize what you are playing in the bigger opera of the cosmos, and like it's a special little spot you have to play. It's a special huge spot you have to play. It's a special you spot.
And if you don't play it, something great is missing.
Yes, and
right?
we need all. That's why I always tell you, like you need to be who you are. And astrology's just got a nice. It's a wonderful ancient tool. To assist you in figuring out who you are.
Yes. I actually didn't notice your bow. Like, this is an amazing... Is this actually a Sailor Moon costume?
It is actually, kind of. It's kind of is. It's kind of part of it. So I'm missing, like, gloves. And
Oh,
all the
yes,
other
gloves.
things.
Yes,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. And also, she's got to have, like, the crystal brooch.
Yes, I
do
know. We
have a
skipped
tattoo, though, of her transformation crystal.
On your...
On
Yes,
the solar plexus,
right, of course.
So...
It's so funny. I think we were talking about this. So, Sailor Pluto has a green wig, and I just didn't feel like wearing a green wig today, and we actually don't have one. We have other
did not
colors.
come in time.
Did not come in
It's
time.
supposed to be part of Green Lantern.
Yes, that actually
and
does
we
make
have
sense.
that coming up as well.
So we do need that, yes.
we do.
But, we were, the way I was thinking about it, and because it's Leo season, I was like, I have to wear this wig.
Have your own hair.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
And the funny part is, I think you said this earlier, we pay homage to these characters that are so celebrated, but really the beauty is playing with your own expression of it.
That is exactly it.
And with that in mind, I just wanted to give a little bit of a shout out to this beautiful corset that is like white brocade. I wanted to give a shout out to Tell Them It's Vintage on Dundas Street. It is owned by an amazing couple of ladies. I think 3 ladies. I met 2, but they reminded me of us.
Oh, yay! Oh, I love that. And I feel like the whole experience of you purchasing that corset was probably just a whole ritual in and of itself.
It really was.
Yeah, like connecting and being like, and like it's also like
It was very
armor.
Moon and Venus.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, but it's armor too. Like think about like the dragon warriors and stuff, and the whole idea of like it's also just protecting all your internal organs and pulling it all together. I know, like, people always think, like, oh, it's a corset, it's uncomfortable. It's actually not.
Well, this one is not uncomfortable, and it took shit, like, you had to lace me up today.
Yes.
I'm
It's a
like,
two-person
trial
job.
room.
That's why it's like, it's very Venetian.
It is very
totally
Venetian.
is, yeah.
And the ladies at Tell Them It's Vintage on Dundas Street in Toronto, they were like helping me lace it up, and I was trying it, and I'm like, is this for Zatanna? Is this for, like, what could I do? And it was so fun. So thank you both. And I really appreciate it, and I'm wearing it today, and I will probably wear it next time.
Oh my gosh, and she will wear it next time, because we will actually, I think we'll forecast our next...
Shall we forecast?
Yes, we're going to do Zatanna, but Zatanna and Zatanna. Speaking of timeline shifts, right? And multiverses and different versions of characters.
So for those of you who don't know, Zatanna is, I feel, a slightly underrated, but
we're going to bring her
awesome.
back.
We're bringing her back.
Once we, like, her interested in her, it's going to be like a live action.
Oh my god.
I bet you, like, watch. Like, it'll be like, we're going to give you a live action Zatanna. Like, why?
Yeah, so Zatanna is a character from the DC comic universe. She comes from a lineage of magicians and illusionists, is into sorcery. So the aspect of Zatanna that I really like is when she's younger in the Young Justice universe, and you are playing older Zatanna.
I am, yes. A much more experienced Zatanna who has done lots of divination. She's a little bit more, I'll say jaded, too.
Okay, my version is not jaded.
She's like, well,
my version is
yeah, because, like, I've have more of a perspective of her. She's got a few relationships, though, with, like, a lot of the soup.
I'm
soups,
so
right?
gonna ask about that.
Yeah, so there's that, as well as, like, Constantine, right? Yeah. And so a lot of these interminglings of magic in the DC universe, specifically, right? And so that, and DC deals with magic differently than how
Doctor
Marvel,
Strange and Marvel,
yeah,
for
and
sure.
So, and it would
is
be kind of cool, too, maybe in the future to have Zatanna talk to Doctor Strange, if I can pull Kevin into a Doctor Strange.
Yeah, that would be good. So that is us next time.
Zatanna
it is next
and
Friday.
Zatanna.
Zatanna, yes.
The Zatanna,
past and future.
Oh my gosh.
Young and old.
Yeah.
Yes.
Zatanna and Zatanna magic show.
Yes,
Something
exactly.
like
The grand illusion. Because she's an illusionist.
It's true. And she speaks backwards, so we'll have to figure out that word.
Yeah, we have to, like, learn our lines for our skit. But that is all, that and more is coming up next week, so please join us next Friday for today's Harmonics, and lovingly produced by Quantum Play Studios.
Which is part of Golden Sugar Productions, which is, dance and DJing, which also includes a whole bunch of other things when it comes to throwing cosmic events, both virtually and in real life.
Where does one find you, Rachel?
You can find us at Golden Sugar TV. So catch us there, as well as we're going to have a lot of more stuff updated as it comes to replays of episodes.
Yeah,
So you can catch those episodes, as well as more, I guess, bios and information about, like, our different characters.
We both have great websites, so
yes.
You should totally look us up.
Yes.
Big shout out to our friends on TikTok. We are Aria and Rachel. Aria and Rachel.
Yes. Oh, give
Sailor
Aria
PLUTO.
a follow on TikTok if you haven't yet. I will tag her in this replay. So
it is Aria_alchemy, and I can be found on quantumtemple.space. That's my URL. I'm newly launched.
Oh, yay! Oh my gosh, you have a URL
I do
spot.
now.
Like real estate in the digital
I
realm.
know. I exist online. It's amazing.
I love it. Okay, I think that covers
Yes,
everything.
that wraps
All the
us.
shades.
Thank you so much, our friends on Rumble. Big love and corgis and roses and hearts to our friends on TikTok. Join us next time.
Until next time, my friends, I'm going to stop the share here. It's going to be a 2-part stop. You guys are going to stop next, so I'm going to have the show.